Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tabcast, the official podcast series powered by Tab Group, where we try to bring you insights from the world's leading voices. I'm your host, Tanya, and today joining us is Martin Ginty from Munters. Martin holds a background of over 30 years in implementing national and international level automation and HVAC projects. Martin, welcome to Tabcast. It is a pleasure to have you here. How are you feeling today?
Oh, thank you. I'm feeling very good, Tanya. Thank you for the invitation.
Great. Martin, tell us something about your current role at Munters and also help us understand Munters at its core, by sharing a brief overview of the company's journey so far, where it began from, what is it currently doing, and also the role it eventually plays in climate control solutions for agriculture.
Sure. Okay. So, first of all, a little bit about me. I'm Martin Ginty. I've been with Munters for just over 10 years now. I work within our market intelligence area. So, I'm particularly responsible for food and pharmaceutical industry. And that covers some of the industries that we look at. We're involved in a lot of other industry areas, though. Basically, we try to be involved anywhere where there's climate control and humidity control needed. So you can imagine nearly everything that gets manufactured in the world has some requirement for that. So not just in vertical farming and agriculture, but in a whole load of other areas. So we're very busy. We're constantly trying to go around fixing the world's humidity problems. Munters itself, we were established in 1955. This year is actually our 70th birthday. So yeah, we've had a little bit of
Great.
celebration. Yep, we've eaten a lot of cake. We probably shouldn't have done that. But it's important. It's an important milestone for us. It shows we must be doing something right. I think we're older than all of our peers within the humidity control space. So it's a really good feeling to be at that point, 70 years strong.
Exactly.
As I said, we cover a lot of applications and industry areas, anything really that needs climate and humidity control. And it's just the list is too big. So I won't even get started. We have a lot of other technological areas as well, pretty much anything that we can look at for controlling climate. So we're also involved in CO2 capture in some places. We have also clean technologies, which will look after volatile organic compounds in some production processes, for example. So it's really very extensive. We try as much as we can to get into anything.
Right. I think that
And
was really interesting. Oh, sorry, please continue.
just going to say, really, we're at the core of all of that. Really, what we're trying to do is make sure we can offer optimal solutions for our customers. So that's really our big focus. And we have a long established presence in many markets. Agriculture is one of those. So we kind of feel that, we have the experience, we have the knowledge, and we're here to help.
Absolutely. I think that was a really powerful journey explanation, Martin. And firstly, congratulations on completing that milestone of 70 years. I'm sure some celebratory cake never hurt anybody. And I feel it really shows how climate control, once how it was seen as a supporting element back then, has now really become absolutely central to any kind of tech innovations. If I were to talk about agri-tech innovations, I think currently it's playing a very central and a very major role. So I think kudos to Munters for bringing all of those operations to really the forefront of all of it. Now, also climate control is becoming non-negotiable in controlled environment agriculture, as we call it CEA. How does Munters technology specifically support vertical farming setups?
Yeah, so I think what really where we're coming from is we're seeing that as people, particularly in the vertical farming sector, are starting to see that the benefits of really close control. Now they're starting to understand more and more who's got the right technology, who's got the right experience. So when we're looking at these type of applications, we know we can provide the right growing conditions according to the type of crops and the environment that they're in, um, across the whole cycle, the whole growing cycle within tight tolerances. So that's maybe something that some people are thinking, well, if we can have plus minus 10% of particular measurement values, that's good. We can do better than that. And so ultimately that improves the yield, that improves the quality. So in terms of the bottom line and calculations of how efficient you are, that's going to be really important.
Right.
Um, all of that's nothing without us being able to support and back up what we do. We're in a market with a lot of competitors who provide very similar offerings and technology, but we also have really an unmatched service network. So we can ensure that if issues are arising, we can deal with that very, very swiftly, or we can even be ahead of the ball, and we can totally avoid things as we see them coming and say, well, in our experience, we need to change the following, and the outcome will be much, much better. So that too is, I think, a really strong part of our playbook. Um,
Right.
Last part to that is we also have a big strength within remote connectivity. So, it's a connected world. Everybody plugs into everything all of the time now. So
Right.
we've made big investments into this to ensure that we can have real-time data monitoring from our equipment, which is super important for making sure you're hitting your targets, and even remote interventions. So without having to get out of your chair, you can see if something is changing, if something is not the way you expect it, and you can do something there without having to spend time and effort to go directly to site to change what's happening. So I think those things wrapped up together are some of the key things we're bringing to this market.
Exactly. I think that's really fascinating to know that there are so many diverse kind of strategies that you're trying to bring to the CEA or the vertical farming market. And in today's time, and exactly how you mentioned that everybody is globally connected, I think it is important to understand the different kind of optimization solutions that a business like Munters is bringing to this market. And also, I think at the sixth Global Vertical Farming Show that we are bringing as a platform, it would be really, I think, interesting and really thrilling to see how you are able to co-collaborate with other businesses that are also providing such kind of solutions to the market, because of course it is about giving some and taking something back. So I think
Mm.
that's going to be really interesting, Martin. Now I want to bring in the concept of sustainability and energy efficiency. They are currently major drivers in farming innovation. How do you think Munters is helping modern farms and agri-tech businesses reduce the kind of environmental impact that they are creating in order to optimize the kind of performance we need?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. This isn't something exclusive to just vertical farming. So we're kind of in a lucky position. We see this everywhere, and it's an increasing requirement. In some ways, a good pressure,
Right.
because we have to step up our game. So we're always conscious of really the total cost of ownership of our solution and of the application. So this particular area, we know that running costs can really make or break the business. It's very, very energy intensive, or it can be, and of course the ambition is to improve that as much as possible. Now we're a market leader in energy efficient climate solutions, so that's something we're proud of. We work on, but we're not resting on our laurels with this. We work with our customers to make sure that all energy saving options are on the table and fully utilized. So often in the very early stages, when we're sales engineer and service engineers are involved, we'll ask a lot of questions about everything that's available. So is there any waste heat sources? Do we have things like low temperature hot water which can be used? Can we use heat exchangers on some processes to bring heat back in, which we can recycle? So we're really leveraging any waste heat sources that we can find on site. And ultimately, that's to optimize the energy requirements, particularly looking at the climate conditions that the customer needs. So some places may need more, some places may need less, and we try to adapt, to what we're given, really, what's laid out before us that we can use.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think also it's a win-win situation when sustainability and productivity go hand in hand with each other. And from what you just explained, Munters really seems to be at the heart of trying to balance that situation. So thank you for sharing that, Martin. Now, vertical farming is a booming industry globally, but it also comes with its own set of challenges. So if I were to ask you that from your global experience, what unique requirements do you see that currently prevail to be implanted in this industry to incur those kind of challenges?
Yeah, sure. So we've been involved with vertical farming for many years now. We saw early on really good, strong growth. There was a particular point in time, really, it was ticking over very, very well. But we also saw as global energy prices rose in the past few years, a lot of projects stalled. Running projects stopped in some cases. It was a really, really hard time, and it's super difficult for those people that they'd done the math beforehand. They had their kind of band of tolerance for costs, and it hugely exceeded it. So that was disastrous for a lot of people, and terrible news all over. So it really has impressed upon everybody energy efficiency. And I know we're kind of rewinding almost to the previous question, but it is really make or break. If you don't have that energy efficiency nailed, and particularly your running costs can run high if you really you've picked maybe the wrong energy source in some cases, because things have switched in the energy mix. I think there's a lot of positive things coming in the market. Governments, for example, are looking at improving power infrastructure anyway. It was a real global wake up call at that time. So not much we can really do as manufacturers per se, but we have to make the best of what's given to us. So if there is a certain limited amount of energy, then we're going to try and work with that. So yeah, back to those energy prices. We try to ensure that we keep running costs as predictable as possible. I think that's about all most people can do. So that way you can calculate in the long run to keep within budget.
Right. I think that's a great perspective, Martin, and especially how you touched upon the role of
And that
the current global crisis. And it really shows the value of flexible solutions over the idea of one size fits all. So, thank you for sharing that. And moving on, I would like to now talk about precision, Martin. How crucial is precise climate control when it comes to maximizing both yield and quality in vertical farms, or maybe in another sense of agri innovation as well?
Sure, yeah. Precision climate control, that's a great term as well, and it's really going to help to reach quality and yield targets. I think look at it the other way. If you leave it a chance, what's going to happen? It's going to happen however that climate is affected by the climate outside of the room or the growing area that you're trying to control. So and I think it's increasingly important when you're dealing with seasonal climate changes. And also, you've got to take your location into account. So, whether you're in a hotter region or a cooler region, you're going to need a different strategy to ensure that those plants grow properly. Certain plants above certain temperatures will go into heat shock. You'll lose that whole growing cycle, for example. So that's really critical. That's a well-known problem. But also during the different growing phases, ensuring that the correct humidity and all of the other factors, nutrition, lighting, etc., are ideally suited to that phase of growth for you to have that optimal condition. Um, I think there was also the external weather conditions are often something which you kind of think you close the door and you leave the weather outside. But that's not often the case. You're still bringing in ventilation and outside air. So, we're keenly aware of really what those external weather conditions are doing. So, we're seeing these days there is more extreme weather, there is more unpredictable weather, and you do need systems to cope with that, to be able to say, it doesn't matter if it rains for 3 days solidly outdoors, I can still keep the humidity in the right place, or it doesn't matter if there's no clouds for a week. We can still do the same thing. So that's important. I think also then location, don't underestimate it. Some areas in the world have a favorable climate and you don't need to do much at particular times of day or particular times of the year. You effectively get free heating and cooling and so on. But there are other places where climate control really makes the difference between success and failure. So, um,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, Martin. And I think that completely made sense here. If Martin, you had experience with HVAC projects as well as I mentioned in the introduction that I made. So, vertical farm in the vertical farming industry, temperature control and climate condition optimization is also a very crucial point. So, do you have a case study in mind, or maybe an example wherein you can reflect the importance of having HVAC projects evolve to meet the unique demands of controlled environment agriculture?
Yeah, yeah. Not being able to name names, of course, but actually, what we find is a very similar pattern across
Hmm.
quite a few customers. Some of them really have done all of their homework and say they know what they're doing, particularly if it's not their first time. You know, if they've
Right,
got several installations, then yeah, they come to the table knowing pretty well what they want to do, unless they're moving into a new area and then there's more exploration. But I'd say then for the other customers, and particularly in the earlier days, we found there were kind of two main things that were happening. First of all, it was just kind of the customer asking, "Can you deliver these conditions?" And they would have something, quite broad, 20 degrees centigrade and 60% relative humidity, for example, over 24-hour cycles. Like, okay, that was great. But as we go through the process of more discovery, more questioning, is that right for this place? What can you provide for all those other things we spoke about, like waste energy sources, the footprint for the equipment that we can use? They start to come up with the second part to the questions to explore what can be done beyond that. Once they realize, okay, we can get this much more, or really explore what could happen, maybe according to time of day throughout the growing season, for example. Those kind of things are a big benefit where they really say, okay, I can, maybe I can cool down overnight as I should do, and then I can warm up during the day and simulate a more natural cycle, for example.
right.
So, overall, for all of these kind of cases, it's really driven by those customer goals. So we're always trying to match that. And that includes the basics, timely delivery. That's super important because sometimes these projects, you never have enough time, and it's always, well, kind of some things do have to happen at the last minute, and we can't come in until something else is installed. For example, we can't show up till the electricity is there. So there is a natural order to these things, and we have to follow that schedule. And also, we found in nearly every case really having our expert support during the product startup, because if you're not there, being able to say, quickly spot something's not working as expected and adjust that quickly, you may wind up running for a week or two in a bad condition, and that kind of jeopardizes everything.
Exactly. And also, I think it's really fascinating, Martin, to hear how HVAC innovations are being tailored for these high-tech farms. They are currently moving beyond traditional building setups and, trying to become a business enabler for those who are really interested in becoming the new age growers. So it's
Hmm.
really fascinating to understand that kind of journey that goes through. Now, moving forward, Martin, looking ahead, what kind of innovations or R&D is Munters focusing on to, let's say, stay ahead in the agriculture and the food tech sector?
Yeah, yeah. So obviously can't say too much because that would give away the game. Um,
Absolutely.
but we definitely have a strong focus on developing our control and connectivity platforms. So, and we're just seeing that as a natural consequence of the world that we're in. People want real-time data, they want fast data, they want historic data. So, we're there to serve that up. And that also puts us in a great position to leverage the real world data that we collect as the foundation for our future control strategy. So as one of the biggest players in the market, we probably have more data than most other companies that we can play with and work from that. So there's a whole bunch of things that we're trying to dig into that now. Beyond that, though, and sometimes we take it a little for granted, we have core technologies. So we have, for example, our desiccant rotor, which is responsible for removing the water from the air. And we have our evaporative pads, which will put water back into the air. So we can control in either direction. And we're still, even 70 years in, we're still looking how to improve the performance, how to optimize everything around that to make sure that we have, and particularly these days, a really sustainable, energy efficient solution for our customers.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's really exciting stuff, Martin. And it is always encouraging to hear that the innovation of company pipeline isn't just reactive, but quite a lot visionary. And the future really sounds promising. And we're excited to let you unfold all of that more at the sixth Global Vertical Farming Show. Speaking of which, we are thrilled to have
Hmm.
Munters on board as a sponsor, happening this September in Dubai. So, what really inspired Munters, in your opinion, to support this event? And what are you most looking forward to?
Yeah, it's I think, well, first of all, just the location, Dubai is super. It's like a magnet. Everybody loves going to Dubai, so it's great to have a show there, to have that opportunity, and it brings in just such an international and this kind of open-minded thinking tends to present itself as well at these occasions. So that's always welcome. Now we see it obviously an event like this, it is a great opportunity to promote our capabilities, particularly within the region there. So certainly that part of the world, we see there are a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of untapped potential. So if we have the local customers, that's great. If we have the international customers, that's also a bonus. But we're really hopeful we can have some in-depth conversations with potential customers. It's a great chance to have a little bit more time, and maybe the pressure's off from having a project right now. Although that
Right.
does also happen. Sometimes people show up and say, "Hey, I need something really quickly," and then everything starts working. But um, ultimately, we want to keep our finger on the pulse. We want to see where that market is going. It's a growing market, and it's a great opportunity to stay closely connected with everything that's going on at that time.
No, absolutely. I think I couldn't agree more with you, Martin. And it's really all about community connection and catalyzing action in that market. And also, your presence really elevates the conversations we are hoping to spark at the show. Now, as you also mentioned, that a lot of agri-tech startups, investors, businesses are really going to be turning up and attending the show. They're going to be people who are just interested in exploring newer business opportunities. So, what message would you like to share with them about the importance of integrating advanced climate solutions early on in vertical farming projects?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's often the big question when we're dealing with any project. So based on my experience and the experience of my colleagues here in both climate control and even automation, nearly anything of this kind of applies to. I can confidently say that it's never too early to do all of the deep thinking and take all of the factors into account. Um, Even if it's just like on the desktop. So, sitting at a table, making things, sketching things out, but running through the what if scenarios of if we were to do this, if we were to do that, because ultimately that's what really saves time and money later on. If you look at the worst end, the other end of the scale, trying to fix it while it's running is just going to cost more and it's going to cause disruption. So that is super important. And of course, having a trusted and experienced partner or partners that can be engaged with the project from the earliest opportunity. So sometimes you might think, well, let's get our thinking together until we talk to the experienced other guys, when in fact, we can bring in a lot of things early on, which may really help, may put the brakes on some things, but ultimately, we're all focused on the same thing, which is the best solution. So yeah, I think that we really can't underestimate the power of that.
Exactly. I think very beautifully said, Martin. And from our conversation today, it is really inspiring to see how Munters isn't just responding to trends, but you're actually helping define the future of agri innovation, food, and other things. So, especially in the rapidly urbanizing world. That would be it for our discussion today, Martin. Thank you so much for joining us on Tapcast. It's been an absolute pleasure getting this inside look into Monte's innovations, the kind of visions that you're carrying, and the future of controlled environment agriculture or vertical farming. And to all of our listeners, I would just say that stay tuned with us. And Montes is going to be there at the sixth vertical farming show, and we are hoping big things are coming up, big projects are going to be unfolded, and even better collaborations.
Sure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Martin, for being with me.